Okay, I think Ed is having some difficulties. He's just reaching out.
Mm-hmm. Right. Good evening, Toastmaster Edward Hearn.
He says he's having some difficulties. He cannot see
Internet.
us.
Okay. Oh,
Right, I'll
sir,
just
you're.
entertain our audience with some music as we fix Ed's technical difficulties.
Hi, Sir Edward. Sir, you're muted. Proceed.
Yeah.
Pastor Edward is on cam and he's muted. Sir, can you unmute yourself?
I'll have to do that for him, I guess. Just hold on a second, sir. I'm going to unmute you.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, you're unmuted. I hear you now and I feel it.
Very good.
Hi, sir.
Hello, how are you today?
Eds.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm fine. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. If your camera doesn't have me looking unusually handsome, maybe you can focus or do something better there.
You look
Right.
good, sir. Don't you worry. You look good.
So just keep your camera and your audio on at all times so we don't get into any difficulties. All right. When it's time, I'll call out for your name.
Okay, very good. Very good.
You look handsome and inspiring.
Well, this is an honor. It's an honor to be with everybody there.
Good evening, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and wherever you are, oh, bright and sunny and warm, and welcome to you all to our episode number 4, volume number 3, featuring our Stay Home Skill Up series. And today we have a special guest here to welcome you all once again. But before that, I would like to introduce you all to our Division K Director, Toastmaster Adrenaline Paul Gascon.
Thank you, Toastmaster Rafiq. Hi, fellow Toastmasters and friends. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. As Division K Director, I officially open this webinar. Now, let us all recite our Toastmasters promise. As a member of Toastmasters International and my club, I promise to attend club meetings regularly, to prepare all of my projects to the best of my ability, basing them on the Toastmasters education program, to prepare for and fulfill meeting assignments, to provide fellow members with helpful, constructive evaluations, to help the club maintain the positive, friendly environment necessary for all members to learn and grow, to serve my club as an officer when called upon to do so, to treat my fellow club members and our guests with respect and courtesy, to bring guests to club meetings so they can see the benefits Toastmasters membership offers, to adhere to the guidelines and rules for all Toastmasters education and recognition programs, to act within Toastmasters' core values of integrity, respect, service, and excellence during the conduct of all Toastmasters activities. Again, fellow Toastmasters, welcome to our episode 4 of 10 or more years of Toastmasters wisdom. So now let us welcome our host for tonight, Toastmaster Rafiq Ahmed.
Thank you very much to our Division K Director, Toastmaster Adrenaline, for not just allowing me to host today, but for allowing me to host Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3, and each and every single episode of these volumes of Stay Home Skill Up series, where we are offering you more years of Toastmasters wisdom. All right, today I am more excited than ever, and the reason for that is because the speaker whom we have here as our guest, I have been following the speaker for a really long time, ever since I first saw the World Championship of Public Speaking finals in 2006. And I watched that speech, and I did not have a tape or a copy of the speech. I watched it at a friend's place on VHS in a VCR. Now, those are probably jargons that you're not familiar with. VHS tapes back in the days is what used to have the World Championship recorded on. And they were sold by a company named Bill Stevens, which probably is out of business right now. But somehow, some of the videos of the World Champions were never uploaded on YouTube. And it is so unfortunate for me to note that one such video was the World Championship winning speech of 2006. I was lucky enough to watch it on VHS. I watched it around 8 times and couldn't get enough of it. When I moved out and I was no longer with my friend, I could no longer hear that speech. So it's an honor and pleasure to be up close and personal with our guest speaker here today. But before I introduce you and give the floor to the guest speaker, I would like to talk a few words about our speaker. Our speaker today, ladies and gentlemen, is a professional speaker, a motivational speaker, a lawyer, minister, and a writer. And he has managed to compete and capture the World Championship of Public Speaking, the title of 2006 World Champion. He also holds the distinction of being the first and only African American from the state of Illinois to ever reach that plateau of success. And not just that, our speaker today is a passionate speaker. He's passionate about humor and speaking abilities that are unique and powerful, that impact his training and his sessions where he inspires his audiences. This evening, it gives me immense pleasure to introduce you all to our speaker, who's not just a great speaker in Toastmasters, but has gone beyond his journey in Toastmasters to inspire others across the world. For the first time, we will now get to hear from 2006 World Champion of Public Speaking, ladies and gentlemen, our fellow Toastmaster, Toastmaster Edward E. Hearn.
Well, hello, everyone. It is my pleasure, fellow Toastmasters, Mr. Toastmaster himself, and to all of you who are tuned in. It is exciting just to be here. This is a strange time for the world. We're doing everything by Zoom and on virtual in virtual aspects, but today I am just excited as I'm coming from home, sitting here sharing a message that I'd like for everybody to really think about very carefully and also to apply in your lives, not just as Toastmasters, but in everything that you seek to do. Today, I want to share a message that is entitled The Courage to Try. This was the first speech that I competed with in 2006 in the World Championship of Public Speaking. Now, I haven't done it under time constraints in some time, so the whole speech was about 7 minutes and 15 seconds or so, but I'm going to go a bit longer than that today. But it's entitled The Courage to Try. It's an important speech because I believe that one characteristic is what will differentiate and distinguish you as a speaker, as a professional, in many other aspects of life. You see, we all have talents, skills, and abilities. But sadly, many of us never take the time to really inventory ourselves, to look at what skills and abilities we have. We never step out into the stage of life and do that one thing that will set us apart. Muster up the courage to try. I like persons who are talented and gifted. In fact, I used to watch a show called The American Idol. That's a show that I don't know if it still comes on, but it showcases those with talent in singing and dancing and many other things. And in 2003, the winner of the American Idol was a man named Ruben Studdard. Now, the amazing thing about Ruben is that in 2003, he only went to the American Idol contest to take a friend along. As he got there, that contest has hundreds of people competing. His friend said, "Why don't you get in, Ruben, and give it a try?" Ruben liked to sing, but Ruben was shy. Like some of us, he said, "No, I don't think I could ever win something like." And his friend said, "You're going to be here all day. Why don't you at least try?" And so he registered on the basis of that, never having practiced, never having prepared. And that day, Ruben Studdard won first place in the American Idol competition. He then qualified to advance to further competitions. And after the year-long competition was over, in 2003, Ruben Studdard was crowned the American Idol. He went on to be a Grammy-nominated singer, made millions of dollars. And in the end, Ruben Studdard said, "I don't even know how this happened. All I know is that my friend encouraged me to try." Well, I'm telling you right now, all of you who are tuned in to this broadcast, I guarantee you there is a world champion listening to this broadcast. There's somebody on this stream right now who could be the next world champion of public speaking. But do you know why many people will never reach that plateau? Not because they're not qualified, not because they're not willing or desirous of wanting to win, but they miss that one central characteristic. It's called the courage to try. Now, let me give you a few reasons why I think many people just simply don't try. The first one is what I call feelings of inadequacy. You see, all of us, when we want to do great things, we're desiring to move to a certain level, but we feel like, well, I don't know if I can do that. That's what Ruben Studdard had. I'm only here to bring my friend. I'm not here to compete. But when he was encouraged to try, he got beyond those feelings of inadequacy and he did what he was gifted to do. You see, within you are gifts and talents and abilities that you don't even recognize. A philosopher once said, if we could dare to see on a sheet of paper all the things that we are possible or possibly could do in our lives, it would astound us. And the reason we don't do those things is because we feel inadequate and we lack the courage to try. Right now, as I am speaking to you, you can't see it, but I'm seated in a wheelchair. Over the last 5 years, I have been wrestling with so much illness in my life, so many physical challenges that it took me away from speaking. I haven't even participated with my Toastmasters club in a number of years. I'm planning to go back in about 3 months. But the reason is that I got sick. I'm diabetic and I contracted a disease that infected my body, an illness, and all of a sudden, everything started falling apart. They first said they were going to have to amputate my big toe on my left leg. That was done. They thought they got it, but the infection continued to grow. They then amputated 2 or 3 other toes. Before it was all over, in a span of over 18 months while I was hospitalized, they amputated my left leg below the knee. They call it a BKA, a below the knee amputation. Very common amongst those who are diabetic. Now, in my life, I had never had any kind of illness. I'd never been hospitalized once, and I was 53 years old. But you know what? Life is funny. After I'd had that amputation, I had to go through physical rehabilitation. And I had a great physical therapist. She was also very good looking and she inspired me. She taught me many things. She taught me how, while prone on my back, how to sit up and stand up. Something you say, oh, that's nothing. Yeah, if you got 2 legs, that's nothing. But when you have one, it's a challenge. But the thing that really got me was that one day she took me into the stairwell of the building. And she said, guess what we're going to do today, Ed? And I said to myself, oh, what do you mean? You don't think you're going to tell me to go up these stairs, do you? She said, yes, you're going to climb a flight of stairs. Well, immediately I got defensive. I said, come on, I only have one leg. Where is the elevator? She said, today, with one leg, you're going to climb a flight of stairs. Now, do you know what? I thought she was crazy. I'm handicapped, lady. Get it in your mind. She said, Ed, listen to me. Your greatest handicap is not in your lower extremities. Your greatest handicap, Edward Hearn, is in your mind. And I'm telling you, you can climb this flight of stairs. I'm going to demonstrate, and then you're going to do it. And so she put her hand on the railing, and she jumped up one step, holding up one of her legs. And then she jumped up another and another. She said, I want you to balance yourself. I want you to believe you can do it. Do it, Mr. Hearn. You can do it. Well, guess what? I'm kind of a chauvinist. And I said, if a lady can do it, I know I can do it. And so I started going up one step at a time. Blah, 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 blah. She said, no, Mr. Hearn, I don't want you to plop down. I want you to jump gently and land like a ninja, very softly, very quietly. And so I did it once, one step at a time. And I did it again. Then I did it again. And then I started getting faster. And slowly but surely, I made it to the top of the stairwell. And then she said, come down in the same manner, one step very slowly, very gently. And I did it one step after another. When I got to the bottom, I turned around. I said, no, I can do it better this time. She said, Mr. Hearn, you're an overachiever. I said, yeah, I'm a world champion. I don't like to come in second place. And I did that stairwell 3 times. And do you know what? At the end of that exercise that day, I looked at those stairs and I said, those stairs are a metaphor for life. You see, everybody has a stairwell in their life. Everybody has an obstacle that they feel is holding them back. But I came to tell you, every one of you on this call, that stairwell is not holding you back. Your biggest obstacle is in your mind. And do you know what the biggest obstacle in your mind is? It's your feelings of inadequacy. Your feeling that you just can't do it. And your failure to cultivate the one characteristic that every great person must have. It's called the courage to try. Now, what's the second thing? Second thing is this: why people don't try. It's called the comforts of mediocrity. You see, when you reach a certain level in your life, you get comfortable. You say, hey, this is no problem. I can do this. I do it all the time. But when my leg was amputated, I had to learn to move beyond my comfort zone. There's nothing wrong with a comfort zone except for the fact that you don't grow in your comfort zone. The reality is that if you feel I'm as good as everybody else, that's okay. But Toastmasters is not about teaching speakers to be as good as everybody else. Talking is an action. Our organization teaches you not only to speak, but how to speak with excellence, to be the very best at what you do and what you say. When you develop the courage to try, the reality is that you must go beyond being mediocre or average. John Mason wrote a book called An Enemy Called Average. And in that book, he says what I'm telling you this morning, that you were not created to be average. You are so special that of the 8 billion people or so that live on the earth, no one has your DNA but you. No one has the print at the end of your finger like you. And I came to tell you, no one's going to give your speech like you. You were created to go beyond mediocrity and to excel to a level of excellence. And you have to put that in your mind. You can do it. But you say, but I like being an average speaker. But life is not about being mediocre. Life is not about being average. It's about setting yourself apart, going beyond your comfort zone, and realizing that you can do so much more if you develop the courage to try. Oh, what's the last thing? I only have 3. The first is that you have to get beyond feelings of inadequacy. The second is that you must exceed your mediocrity, your comfort zone. But the last is this: you must overcome the biggest reason why people don't try. It's called the fear of failure. You see, people don't go out there in the world of competition because they're afraid that when I get out there, I'm going to lose. Some of you may have competed in the World Championship of Public Speaking. And guess what? You've been defeated. And once you taste failure, you want to quit. Oh, I was very fortunate. The first year I got in the World Championship of Public Speaking, I went all the way from the club level to the world title. But wait a minute, I'm a minister. I'm a lawyer. Talking is my greatest gift. So I had a lot of background, had been speaking for years. Toastmasters didn't teach me how to speak. It helped perfect my skill. When you have the courage to try, you have to overcome your fear of failure. Don't ever think I haven't failed in life. Honey, I could write you a book on failure. All of my life, I wanted to be a lawyer. I grew up watching a show called Perry Mason, the lawyer that never lost a case. And I wanted to be a criminal lawyer. I got in college and I did well. I got in law school. I made good grades. I studied hard. Then I ran into something called the Illinois State Bar Examination. That is a qualifying examination. It lasts for 2 days, 8 hours each day of the most intense testing you could ever imagine. I took the bar exam the first time and I was zealous about what I did. And when I got the results 2 months later, I failed. Well, that's okay. It's a difficult exam. A lot of people fail the bar examination. So I got in and I took it a second time. Guess what? I failed. Now, by now, I was getting a little worried because my ego was really hurt. I felt a sense of futility. I said, I've taken this twice and I failed. But people gave me a lot of encouragement. They said, come on, Ed, the third time is the charm. And I said, yes. I went and I took it the third time and I failed. And trust me, friends, it was no more charming than the first or the second time I failed. So I took it a fourth time and I failed. I took it a fifth time and I failed. And ladies and gentlemen, I've got news for you. Failure can eat to the very core of your soul, where you feel like there's no need in trying. I can't do it. I sit here today and reiterate the words of my physical therapist. Your challenge is not physical, Mr. Hearn. You can do many things if you develop the courage to try. If you can't do it one way, find another way. And if that doesn't work, develop yet another. But you will succeed if you are committed to doing it with excellence. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you as I hasten to a close that I went home to Springfield, Illinois. That's my hometown. And I decided to get away from everything in Chicago where I live and study for the bar. And as I was studying for the bar exam, I was zealous. I was working hard. I had failed 4 or 5 times. My mother came in the room one day and I was frustrated. I was blinking back tears in my eyes. And my mother looked at me and she said, baby, what's wrong? I said, Mom, I have failed this exam numerous times. And I'm starting to think I'm wasting my time in trying to be a lawyer. Well, my mother loves me. She looked at me and said, honey, you go do the best you can and recognize this. Even if you never fail, if you never pass, I will always love you. And she kissed me on the forehead and walked out of the room. Ladies and gentlemen, when your mother does that, that gives you encouragement. And I went and I started studying again. And then I fell back into that hole that some of you have fallen into. That hole that says, this is hopeless. And then a week or so later, my dad walks in the room. You don't know my father. He is tough as nails. My father, who's now passed away, he died a few years ago, was born in 1917 in the state of Mississippi, where a Negro didn't have the value of a mule. My father, however, is a strong man. He had 11 children. I am the 10th of those 11. He had 8 sons. I am the 7th of those 8 sons. And my father said, "What's wrong with you, boy?" I said, "Dad, I'm failing the bar exam and it's hard." And I just wanted a little sympathy because when you fail, you feel like a victim and you want people to stroke your ego and make you feel better. And my father looked at me and said, "Son, did I ever tell you how I lost the fingers on this hand?" He had a terrible accident at work one day. Now, my father's told me I lost those fingers at least 50 times. And every time he tells me the story, he tells me like it's the first time he ever told me. I said, "No, Dad, you never told me how you lost those fingers because I know that's what he wants to hear." He said, "Well, sit back. I'm going to tell you." He said, "I was working in a factory, son. I had pulled 8 long hours. I was getting sleepy on my job. My job was to push some metal into a machine and a blade would come and cut that metal. And because it was near the end of the shift and I got tired, I put my hand in the way of that blade that came to cut that metal. And as I pushed it in, the blade hit that metal and then it also hit my hand. Just like it cut that metal, it cut my fingers. They were hanging. And as I sat there, I pulled my hand back in a pool of blood. They took me to a portion of the factory called the sick bay. It's like a hospital on the plant. And as I was there, a guy looked at my hand and said, "Major, ooh, that's a bad one." He pulled out something, son, that looked like tin snips, like scissors. And he cut my fingers off. He sewed them up. Of course, he had it deadened. And then he wrapped my hand very tightly and sent me to a room where I was to recover. I figured I'd go home, get a few weeks of rest. As I was sitting in that room, my father said, my boss man comes in. He says, "Major, I understand you had a bad accident." He said, "Yeah, lost a couple fingers on this hand." He said, "Well, Major, I know you're in pain," but he said somebody didn't report to work, a couple of people. And we have a quota of cars that we got to produce. So I'm wondering if I put you on a machine where you didn't have to use the hand you just hurt, do you think you could do another 8 hours for me today?" Now, my father looked at me and said, "Son, do you know what I wanted to tell that man? I wanted to give that man the worst cussing he had ever heard in his life. I wanted to take my one good hand and really lay it on him. But you know what crossed my mind, son?" I said, "What, Dad?" He said, "I thought about a wife and 9 children that were still in my house that I had to feed every day. I thought about how hard it was for me to get a job because I cannot read, I cannot write, and I am a Negro. I thought about how difficult it was to get to that level. So do you know what I said to that boss? I said, "Dad, what'd you say?" He said, I blinked back the tears in my eyes and I said, "Yes, sir. You put me on a machine that I can work my one good hand with, and I'll finish another 8-hour shift for you." And he did that. And I finished that shift with one hand, doing more work than most men would with two. So the moral of this little story, son, is that if you think I'm going to cry for you because you cannot pass the state board law exam, I ain't got no more tears, son. I used all my tears up feeling sorry for myself. So what I suggest you do is stand up, be the man I raised you to be, and go in there and do what you got to do. And with that, he turned and walked out of the room. And as he left, I wanted to say, "But aren't you going to kiss me and tell me you'll love me, even if I never pass?" Nope, that's not my father. That's not the man who raised me. The man who raised me said, "You're going to fail sometimes. You're going to have difficulties sometimes. People are not going to like you because of the color of your skin. You don't even have to worry about that. You stand up Overcome your fear of failure and show the world that you are a man that can do anything you put your mind to. If you have one significant characteristic, my friends, that characteristic is all I came to tell you today. There is no measure to what you can do in life if you keep one thing in mind. That one characteristic is called the courage to try. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Edward Hearn. Well, if I wasn't wearing this shirt right now, I would really show you the goosebumps that I'm having right now. And and I would like to be as sincere as I can. And it is the exact same feeling I had way back in 2006. And the years after that, when I was going through some difficult times in life, and I would always have this speech of yours resonate in my mind about bouncing back. Those every single word that was mentioned there, which was inspirational not just for me, but for thousands who are watching your speech. And this is something which I'm really astonished, and something that is surprising to me, that over these years you've not lost a single percentage of that energy and that enthusiasm in which you delivered your message in 2006. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Ed. And I know that you've been battling with a lot of challenges yourself, and I have been in touch with you in the past, and I was so taken aback when you got back to me saying that you were unable to respond back because you were battling through some of the challenges. But I see you now, the same world champion of public speaking, with the same energy, the same enthusiasm, and the same spark of inspiration. It's an honor, truly. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Ed, for that.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
We now go into our interesting session, which is taking question and answers from our audience. And the way we work with this, Toastmaster Ed, is that we will kick off the Q&A session with our first reactor, who will be giving a feedback on the entire session of how they received it, and kick off the Q&A with the first question. To do so, we have with us distinguished Toastmaster Betsy Kruger. Toastmaster Betsy, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening, especially to our very special guest. I'm very honored to hear from you, distinguished Toastmaster Edward Hearn. I am so inspired, and I can see from the chat box that a lot of people are saying so many wonderful things about your speech and yourself. And that rings really entirely true. I am inspired because you've given us the best gift. You've given me the best gift, and that is your authenticity and your inspiration, this courage to try. I may be a distinguished Toastmaster, but sometimes or oftentimes I lack the courage to try. So listening to you, how well you speak, how clearly you speak, sans the accent and all that, and really getting your ideas from the mind and from the heart make me want to get that energy that you have, that seems to be so bottomless from your end since 2006 until now. As what Toastmaster Rafiq said, you are just somehow like the light that never is turned off.
Thank you.
I am particularly inspired by all the stories of your life, and the book that you mentioned that's entitled An Enemy Called Average. And I think that's what really struck me. Well, of course, there were so many points that you cited, and I really have to salute you for overcoming all these personal issues and health concerns. I think you have made what I complain about as health issues very, very not really worth mentioning at all compared to what you have gone through. And with that, I take courage from you. You cited 3 points about mastering the courage to try, developing this courage, and overcoming the fear of failure. My question is, what is your advice to people who say there's nothing worth sharing about their normal, regular lives? Because that somehow brings to mind that a lot of members, including myself, sometimes are struck with the nothingness of life. That's why there are no more speeches to be made, because I don't know what to say. There are so many good ideas. Other people have already said these things. Why should I add my story? There's no story to tell. So, what would be your advice in mastering the courage to find these gems in one's regular life, and especially for the young people who say they have nothing to say because they are frightened of judgment?
Ah, yes. Well, you see, I believe that all of us have a unique story, and we often don't realize how inspiring or how many people we can assist with what we have to say. We say, well, somebody's already said that, and there are very few original thoughts. But even when you're speaking with people who have been saying for years, it's the way that you say it that really has an impact. You know, when they said they were going to amputate my limb, they said, I asked them, well, what would happen if I said I don't want you to amputate my limb? They said, Mr. Hearn, if we don't amputate your limb within the next 60 days, that infection will spread to your lungs and your heart, and you will die. I said, well, I'm 53. I have no wife. I have no children. I'm ready to die. And so they had me actually go see a psychologist. They said, this guy's crazy. I said, no, I'm not afraid to die. But what I was looking at is I have nobody to take care of me. What will be the quality of my life? No, I'd rather die than deal with that. You know what got me was that someone came to me in the hospital who was a church member of mine and said, you know, Ed, I don't want to preach to you. You're the preacher. You got a sermon that you gave. You said you've given it as a Toastmasters speech. It's called The Courage to Try. And if you give your life up like that, it's almost like being a hypocrite. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. The worst thing in the world is when you say something profound and somebody says it back to you and you say, you're absolutely right. It's easy for me to tell you, go out there and develop the courage to try. But when they amputated my leg, I said, no, I don't want to try this. But when somebody said that to me, you said that to us a million times. Are you a hypocrite? Do you really believe that? And I had to shake that person's hand and say, you know what? You're absolutely right. And so I went ahead with the procedure. And the hardest part of dealing with it, and that's what I think for each of you, is just realizing that you can do many things, but you have to take it to the next level. When your life is over, it's over. They say you only live once. Once is enough if you live it with passion and with meaning. And that's why I say the courage to try is so important, so very important.
Thank you. Thank you, Toastmaster, distinguished Toastmaster Betsy Kruger, and thank you, Sir Ed, for the wonderful answer for that. We have a question coming in from District 79, Toastmaster, distinguished Toastmaster Nazir Al Qasim. I see you raising your hand. Please go ahead and unmute yourself, sir.
Okay, thank you so much, Rafiq. You are really amazing. You brought for us this gym. I really love this man, Ed Hearns, 2006 world champion. You are still our hero, sir. And you have inspired me with your bouncing back from this diabetic condition. I am myself a patient of diabetes, but when I heard you, that you are a lawyer, believe me, I watched Perry Mason as well, and you are more convincing and more great lawyer. You have really made me feel good that I have to go back and continue living even with this condition I have. But let me tell you, there are so many things that you have said today. It's really inspiring for me. I'd like to ask you about when you finish your bouncing back victory, did you go back to the lawyer business and you stopped being active in Toastmasters? Because we lost the track. What happened? Like what Rafiq has said. Back to you. Thank you.
Yeah, well, actually, after I won, I was active. In fact, I was president of our local chapter for a couple of years, but then illness came upon me and I started having some health challenges. So I haven't been back to my club. I think it's been about 2 or 3 years. I go back maybe once or twice a year just to visit. I haven't paid my dues. Ooh, I shouldn't say that online, but I'm going to be back active dues paying and actively involved come by about November, because I do have a prosthesis. I am completing my physical therapy. I'm walking, but I'm kind of walking like Frankenstein right now. And I'm trying to get to a level where I can walk like Barack Obama, if you know what I mean. So the reality is I'm getting back to wholeness and healing, and I really want to train some other speakers. So I went back and was doing the legal thing, but you know what I found out? That speaking, believe it or not, speaking can afford me a better lifestyle than practicing law. I never realized that. I never knew a professional speaker. And it was only when I met Les Brown and several other great speakers that said, "Oh yeah, you're a world champion. You could do a lot of things, and you write as well. So my God, you can do a lot." So I still enjoy practice of law. I still enjoy helping people in the legal context, but I really, when I speak and motivate, I mean, I find that I can help people help other people. So that bouncing back speech, that's taken on a whole new dimension in my life, because now my whole life is about bouncing back. And come January 1, oh man, I think I'll be totally ready in great ways.
Thank you. Thank you so much, distinguished Toastmaster Nazir Al-Qasim, joining from District 79, Saudi Arabia. Thank you for that question. Thank you, Toastmaster Ed. We got another question coming in, but before that, I have my own questions. I have a lot of them. And I'll take this opportunity to ask a question as well. I have heard you speak, and as I said, I remember every word of your speech. But here is something which caught my attention, and even until this moment, how do you train yourself to speak in that radio voice, Toastmaster Ed? You've got this resonating, clear, strong, I would say, and heavy voice that not only resonates across, but it actually hits you, you know, when you hear you, and you're not shouting. The best part about it is that you're not shouting, you're not loud, but your voice is heavy and deep when we hear it. How do you do this? Is this something you've developed over a period of time? Are you born with it?
I think to some degree, I have some natural innate skills I was born with, but Toastmasters helped me to learn that. It helped me. You see, my education and my exposure to various audiences helped me a great deal. See, I'm a minister. I'm a Baptist minister. And when you're an African-American minister and you speak in the church, people are very emotion filled. So if I say, somebody here needs to know you can do anything you put your mind to, the people will say, come on, Reverend, you're right, come on. See, they urge you on. Now, I'm also a lawyer. And when you say to a jury, ladies and gentlemen, what you are looking at is an innocent man. You point to your client. The jury just goes, They don't give you any feedback, but you had better be convincing, because if you're not convincing, you're going to lose. You won't make much of a living as a trial lawyer. So being in the church where there's a lot of affirmation, a lot of high-spirited speaking, and then being in, I was in moot court, which is trial competition in law school. I was in debate in college. It gave me that ability to have a range. If an audience wants to look, then I believe that I know how to delve into their thinking. When I start doing lengthy speeches where I talk about the amputation of my limb, I've got news for you. I can say things that I know resonate. Like when I tell them that when they were amputating my limb, they had me laid on a gurney. And as I was laying there, they hadn't given me any anesthesia. They took a marker and they marked something on my leg. I mistakenly believed that that was a scalpel and they were cutting my leg. And boy, they had me strapped down. I almost turned the table over. I said, I can feel that. I can feel that. And the lady said, sir, it's just a marker. It's not that. You see, in my mind, I was fearing something physically that wasn't even happening. And that's the way it is in life. When you lack the courage to try, you think, I can't beat those people. You've already convinced yourself. But if you ever say, I can be the best me that I can be, just be you. And when I get in front of an audience, I know what I'm going to say, but I'm looking at eyes, I'm looking at heads nodding, I'm looking at judges who show you no reaction. And my background in speaking has given me the ability to know when I'm connecting. So it's partly, I think, an innate gift, but more so, Toastmasters trained me how to effectively convey a message to an audience. And that's why I tell anybody, if you are in any business, it'll be a lawyer, it'll be a minister, if you're in sales, but you learn how to speak effectively, how to convince and persuade and make people laugh, oh, you're going to make more sales than anybody on your team. And so I thank God for Toastmasters. It really was a godsend. I had an axe, but you know what Toastmasters taught me? It taught me how to sharpen that axe and how to make sure that I could cut down in 3 strokes what the average man might need 15 or 20 to do.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I'll tell you, my reaction was when I watched your speech, I said, this speaker just ate all the other speakers alive for lunch just with his voice. I mean,
yeah. Well, believe me, when you're in competition and you look at some of the speakers, how good they are, you say, oh boy, here we go. But I go back to what my father says. When they put me on that machine, and here I got an injured hand, they said, well, can you use the other hand? He said, I had 2 options. I could have either gotten angry, or I said, I'll tell them what I can do. I'll do it better with 1 hand than the average man will with 2. And guess what? He worked at that job for 30 or more years and never missed a day because he had the right attitude. And attitude will certainly affect aptitude. I've seen people who want to get in the world championship and they hope that there aren't skilled speakers. Nah, no. A champion wants the best speakers. You want to compete against the best because when you win, I got news for you. You'll turn around and say, oh, I did it. And once you cross that threshold where you say, just like me, climbing those stairs with 1 leg, I have never climbed a flight of stairs with 1 leg until my leg was amputated. Once you do that, you say, what else can I do? What other things can I do? I guarantee you, only death itself will stop me in the next 5 years from being among the #1 professional speakers in this world. Not in America. America's in the world. The world is not in America. I'm saying in the world. Now, if you think like that, you can achieve like that. But most of us, oh no, Ed, you don't want to be arrogant. No, I'm not suggesting arrogance. I'm not. I'm simply suggesting taking my skills to the highest level possible. And that's what everyone on this call should make a note. I don't care how good you think you are, you can be exponentially better if you develop that courage to try.
thank you so much, Master Ed. I believe you don't have a kill switch to your energy, so we're going to keep going. We have a question coming in from Toastmaster Hazel Pasquale. Toastmaster Hazel, if you can hear us, please unmute yourself and you can direct your question to Toastmaster Ed.
Hello, Ed.
Hello.
That was a very amazing speech. I was really glued to my seat. And thank you for sharing that story. Wow. And my question is this, since you mentioned we should dream high, right? So
Yes.
what are your tips so we could also reach the World Championship of Public Speaking stage?
Well, I think the 3 tips I always give people is you have to love speaking and you have to love getting in competitions. Everybody loves to win. That's beautiful. but more so than loving to win, you have to love putting your skills on the line against other people who are equally as skilled or even more so skilled. So you got to have a passion for what you do. Number two, you have to have a vision that helps you to see the finish line. When you are competing, never look past the competition if it's at the club level. I only competed with 3 people at the club level, and I won that. Now, when I got to the next with I think it's area division, just focus on that group. Don't look too far down the line. Don't say when I get to finals, you may not make it to finals. Focus on what you're with. A light that shines through a magnifying glass can shine the light of the sun on a piece of paper. But if you hold that light up higher and higher and refine that light stream to a little dot on that piece of paper, in a matter of seconds, it will light that paper on fire. That's the way your skill level has to be. I'm good. I'm pretty good. But guess what? I can be better and better and better. So you got to have the passion. You got to refine your skills. But the last thing is you have to be persistent. Because I'm telling you, there are a lot of people. There are a lot of people who are in this competition. I don't know, what is it, like 30,000 or more from around the world? And so if you fail, learn from your failures. Don't just go through a failure. Grow through your failure. What did I do incorrectly? I'm growing. You know, if you look at my plate now, and I've gained weight, so I'm in the process now of having to exercise and get off about 30 pounds, but I'm eating totally different because I had heard that diabetics suffer from, amputations, but my whole family is diabetic. I didn't think anybody, we've never had any amputations. I'm the only one out of 11 children. I'm the only one who went through it. But guess what? Guess what? I've grown. I know now about portion size and eating. I know now that bread, which I love to eat, has carbohydrates that turn to sugar. So my knowledge and everything has grown. So it is with speaking. You might, at this level, have the skill to be the world champion, but not the knowledge, not the awareness of what to do. But I dare you to compete 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. By that 5th year, you will be almost unstoppable. So have the persistence. Most people quit before they get to the end. And usually when they quit, that's right before their breakthrough was coming. So never give up. If you never win, and 20, Rich Hopkins competed with me in 2006. His name is Rich Hopkins. He is still competing. And somebody say, that was 2006. This is 2020. But I guarantee you, Rich Hopkins is going to be a world champion because he has that passion that says, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to die before I give up. So that's really the key.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, Toastmaster Hazel. We've got another question coming in. This one is anonymous, Toastmaster Edward, and I've been asked to read the question out without naming the person. The question goes like this. Distinguished Toastmaster Edward, in your opinion, how can we reach beyond mediocrity when we don't have the will to live?
Ooh, wow. Well, I think that the latter must precede the former. You must have the will to live. And like I say, I have a whole file of the hospital psychologists who were talking to me before my amputation because they thought that I was depressed. See, they thought, this guy says he'd rather just die. I mean, come on, there's something wrong with him. They didn't quite understand what I was saying. Now, I'm also a lawyer, so the documents that they want me to sign are called a waiver of liability. It says, if you decide that you're going to die, then you sign this document so your family won't sue us. It's his decision. But the point I'm making is there is so much to live for. When people say they want to die, they're like me. I've been there. What do I have to live for? I don't have any children who are going to go to school. I don't have a family that needs to see me come home. It's just me. I used to have a saying, in my life, it's only Ed. When I eat and wipe my mouth, my whole family has been fed. All I got is me. But guess what, Ed? Life, God showed me that life isn't just about you. Your life intersects and interconnects with many other people. I did a speech, one of the first speeches when I was out. I didn't have my prosthesis at the time. There's a group called Wounded Warriors. They are soldiers who, American soldiers, who went into battle and they lost limbs. I lost my right leg or left leg. Many of them lost both legs above the knee, both legs and an arm. And they said, Ed, we want you to come and speak to this group. Now, I'd heard of them before, but I'd never spoken to them. But when I went in there and started speaking and sharing with them about my situation, you'd have thought I was in church, man. And those people were excited because they said, not only is this guy speaking to us, but he knows what we've been through. He's sitting in a wheelchair. He's lost a limb. The worst thing about losing a limb to me is not the limb itself. It's consciously coming to grips with how people look at you. You know, I was in a wheelchair one time and a little boy in a grocery store came up and said, sir, can I ask you something? I said, yeah. He said, are you sitting on your other leg? He was only about 4 or 5. And I said, no, I don't have. I had my pants leg down, but he couldn't see my other leg. And I said, no, my leg was amputated. And he said, ooh, did it hurt? And I said, not so much now. And so I said, would you, my mother was asking, would you mind if he gave me a hug? And she said, oh, and he hugged me. And you'd be amazed what that did to me. It made me say, he's only looking at you, Ed, because he doesn't understand. Where's his other leg? Well, that's the way life is. You can proceed far beyond where you are, but you have to understand you are here for a reason. And the desire to live is just the desire to maximize everything that you are. And your skills will impact. When I got done doing the Wounded Warriors, they're planning to bring me back the first part of next year because they said you had such a great response because I could relate and they could relate looking at me. So I tell everybody the power to speak. When you have that power, you can calm the masses. You can inspire. I talk to young men who are in the city of Chicago, young African-American men, many of whom have had problems with the police. You know, we're going through a lot of police brutality in the Black community, and we're addressing that now. I tell them, I was stopped in my vehicle, seated on a summer night. A .357 Magnum pistol was pressed into my temple. And a guy said, get out of the car. Get out of the car and put your hands on the hood. I didn't even know who he was. He didn't have on police clothing. He was giving me orders and I was trying to comply with his orders. While I had my hands on the hood of the car, he put the gun in the back of my head. A female officer comes with a 12-gauge shotgun, jammed it in my ribs. And I'm saying, what is she doing this for? Finally, I say to the officer, officer, I'm an attorney. Please allow me to explain. He said, let me see your Supreme Court ID, which is an ID card all attorneys carry. I showed it to him and the whole story changed. Now, when I tell that story in high schools, I tell that to kids, they say, I'd sue him. No, that police officer did not harm me. But his dispatch said that that individual he was looking for was armed and believed to be extremely dangerous. No, I didn't do anything other than shake that gentleman's hand and say, sir, I'm glad we could resolve this. Have a great day. But in life, you gotta find a reason. There's a lot. Somebody in the school system needed to hear that speech, and I give it all the time because they say, oh, you don't know what it is to be stopped by the police. Are you kidding me? This isn't a good Coppertone 10, friends. This is my ethnicity. And nobody knows who you are and what you are, but you demonstrate who you are by the way you speak, by the way you say yes, sir, no, sir, by the kindness you exhibit, even in the face of brutality. Be obedient. So answers to the question, you can do a lot of things in life, but find that purpose. You've got it. It's up to you to discover it. And when you share it, your life will have meaning like never before. I sponsor a school in Zimbabwe that has over 250 children. At 62 years of age, I was married for 22 years. My wife and I never had a child. I don't have a single child, but I have kids that I support because it isn't about me necessarily having the child. It's about me sharing the life of me as a child with people around the world. That's really what's important.
Thank you. Thank you for that anonymous question. The next question we have a hand raised by Toastmaster Abdul Fettah joining us from Florida. Go ahead and ask your question, Toastmaster Abdul Fettah.
Thank you. Thank you. Brother Edward, to say you have inspired me is an understatement. You have lifted me to cloud nine. You are electrifying. You are a tsunami of energy. That's the simple thing I can describe you. Now, here's my question. When you answered the question of Toastmaster Rafiq, you made a statement and you said, when I'm looking at the judges. So here's my electrifying and controversial and tricky question. During your time, were judges anonymous? And if not, and if so, do you know when they have started to become anonymous and why? And do you support and what's your take on this? Thank you.
Yeah, I think the judges are anonymous now, and I don't know when they actually became. I can't think of except one or two contests where the judges were. I knew who the judges were because they were seated in a particular section. But the reason they have anonymity amongst the judges is because they don't want the speaker to play up to the judges. Sometimes, if you know who the judges are, you might try to do or say things to impress the judges to get points, and because the object is to win the contest. But I really, it doesn't matter who the judges are, but I'm used to speaking in front of judges because I'm a lawyer and the judge is seated in the middle of the courtroom. So I know he's looking at me, and only occasionally will I ever even look at a judge in a courtroom. Same is true of speaking. If I know who you are, I'll be aware of it. I'll be conscious of it. But you know, winning a contest is not about, what can I say, impressing judges. You want to impact them with what you say. You want to let them know that you know exactly what, you know, that speech that many have referenced today about bouncing back, that was my winning speech. It says life is not about what happens to you. The essence of life is what are you going to do about it? What is your strategy for bouncing back? Again, my father, whom I mentioned earlier, who was, you know, he's raised in the worst racism you could imagine in the state of Mississippi. He said, that's our advantage, son. When you walk in the room full of racists, they feel, oh, this black guy, write him off. That's to your advantage. Don't say, what do you mean, write me off? I'm a lawyer. I have a doctoral degree. Let them think that way. But when you step before that on that stage, you show them what you're about. Same is true with judges. Don't let the judges, they're there to look at you, to evaluate you, and to find any weaknesses in your speech. Now, what I share with those whom I coach, make sure you don't expose any weaknesses. I mean, you make sure there are no pauses unusually. You are pronouncing each word clearly. You transition well. But I think judges should be anonymous because some people, they like to play up to the judges. And I don't think that you win a speech contest by doing that. You win a speech contest by the depth of what you have written, the conviction with which you deliver it, and the excellence by which you convey that, and then end by turning it over to the Toastmaster. That's the key.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Toastmaster Abdul Fettah. Thank you, Toastmaster Ed. We have another question coming in all the way from Greece, District 109. Toastmaster Panos Kourelis, please go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you, Rafiq and Edward. Bless you for blessing us tonight. Bless you.
Well, thank you.
I once heard a spiritual teacher describe pain as the ultimate teacher in life. for lack of a spiritual teacher in our life, pain is the best teacher we can have. And I wonder if the best stories come from the transformation of pain, because I believe I can say that on behalf of many that are listening now. We have entertainment and we have humor and we have lots of frivolous activities. Those are nice to have and I enjoy them as much as the next guy. But the true life lesson is to transform through pain, because I don't think we transform pain itself. I think pain transforms us and we transform through pain. So I wonder, what would be the distillate of your wisdom when it comes to finding that transformational space inside our lives, each and every one of us in different magnitudes. We've all been through some kind of pain. And to put ourselves in the position of offering that to the rest of us as a blessing, as a gift, because I see human value in that, like the value you brought to us today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Edward. Bless you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You're absolutely right. The challenges that we go through, the obstacles that we have to overcome. A mountain climber once said, when you see a great summit and you're getting ready to climb, it isn't the mountain that you have to conquer. It is yourself. It is the belief that you can climb that mountain, that you have the ability to do it. The mountain is going to be the mountain. But do you have the ability within yourself? And pain certainly does that. Failure does that. That's that last point I was making. We have a fear of failure because we don't understand it. We don't know how to process it. But when you fail and you come back and analyze, and as my father kept telling me, you're strong enough. You can take it. You can do it. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Stop feeling. You know, as an African American, that's a message I share almost every day to my congregation and to others. No, you don't need money to have dignity and respect. You don't need a great deal, in America especially, to get a good education. The average iPhone is more powerful than the computer that they used to put the first man on the moon. You can Google information and get articles and statistics on a million different things. But you have to be able to adjust your attitude and your perspective and your whole life direction to say, everything that happens to me happens for a reason. Now, it is my job to search for that reason. Before I won a world championship, I didn't know much about speaking from a competitional level at this level. And then I got in. And when I won, I said, I'm the same guy that before I started this contest. But the mind is transformed. You see, the butterfly is no longer the caterpillar. It is, but it isn't, because it has evolved and been transformed. And that's what pain and heartache. I do workshops on marriage. And I have no children. I was married 23 years and divorced. And I have had women come up to me and hug me, because I tell, in one of my basic thesis is, that a lot of the women want to be married. They've never been married. And I said, oh no, being single isn't the worst thing that could happen to you. The worst thing is being married, but being worse than you were when you were single, being so alone and so broken. So from the pain of divorce, from the pain of what I went through, it gives me the opportunity to grow in tremendous ways. I have on the side of my house, there's a big lot and it's asphalt. But I noticed that there are a few cracks in that asphalt. And through those cracks, there's grass that grows. And I'm saying, how in the world does grass grow in the crack of asphalt and concrete? It's because there's a little dirt and there's a little moisture and a little sunshine. And the seeds that are in that dirt receive that sunlight and suddenly begin to grow. There's no measure to each of you on this call as to what you can do. I just had a person who told me, Ed, I can put you in a position right now with a pretty good 6-figure income and you can do it. I stopped him right there. I said, I don't want it. He said, but you haven't even heard it yet. I said, I don't want it. He said, why don't you want it? I said, because I don't want a 6-figure income. I haven't walked in 5 years. Now that I'm getting back on my feet to walk again, I want a 7-figure income. He said, Ed, come on. Nobody's going to pay you $1 million. I said, watch. Now, where did I've never made anything more than about $180,000 in my life a year. How am I now? Because once your mind is stretched to certain dimensions, it will never go back to its original form. I can win a world championship. I can win a 10-count murder indictment. I can do a lot of things that I didn't really know I could do. But once you do it, the pain, the obstacles, the trials, the tribulations will only serve to make you stronger if you understand that. So my friend, your point is exactly right. It's good to laugh, and I love, I've got so much humor, I could be a comedian. It's good to have jolly and fun, but especially to my African-American brothers, I say we're blessed to be in America. Now, marching and protest have their place, but now let's show what we are made of. Not trying to get revenge, just trying to serve with excellence in whatever we do. And believe me, when Toastmasters crowned me world champion, it opened my mind. If other people, one of my mentors right now makes $1.2 million a year, and he said, I tried to be a world champion 3 years in a row and never made it. But then I started making money and I liked it. I challenge you each to do the same thing. You've got greatness in you. Develop the courage to try.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Panos, all the way from Greece, District 109, for that question. We got another one coming in. The audience is just getting warmed up, but I think we're just coming to almost to the end of the session, so I'll take a few more questions. This one's coming in from Toastmaster Ronald. Toastmaster Ronald, if you can hear us, go ahead and unmute yourself. All right, I believe. All right, Toastmaster Ronald, since you're unable to unmute yourself, I'm going to ask the question for you. And the question is as follows. How can we develop a mindset that will never waver against adversities?
Well, you know what? I wish such a mindset could come, but you're always going to have times when you waver. That's normal. That's like a person saying, how can I never fear? Nah. Fear is something natural and innate to the human mind and consciousness, and it has its place. But the key is that don't allow the wavering of your faith or your spirit to control you. To what degree do you worry and waver and fear? It's just like, I love sweets, but I'm diabetic. Now, my doctor said, Ed, you can have sweets, but it's how much do you eat? And you go through all kinds of temptations. They got a place called Mrs. Fields Cookies here. I go and I'm going to buy one cookie, chocolate chip with macadamia nut. I love that cookie. When I get to the counter, you know what the lady tells me? If you buy 2, you get 1 free. And I'm like, oh, no. Something says, Ed, look at your leg. Now I've got a prosthesis there. Do you want your other leg to be amputated? So people in life do things either to derive pleasure or to avoid pain. When it comes to fear, when that comes, you have to ask yourself, will I be controlled by my fear or will I be controlled by my faith? If another person can do it, Edward Hearn comes from a family of a mother who has a third grade elementary education. She died at 89. My father was functionally illiterate. He could not read or write even so much as his name. When they asked me what I wanted to be, my father said, anything you want to be, you tell me, I'll help you get there. I said, I want to be a lawyer. He said, ooh, that's going to cost a lot of money, don't you think? I said, I don't know, Dad. I was only 8. He said, you go get the training. Let your mother and I figure out how you're going to pay for it. And I made it to my goal. Now, again, there'll be times when you will wake up and say, forget it. After 3 years of trying to be the world champion, you say, forget the world championship. If you want to do that, you can. But you have to look at what did you do that you could be doing better. Do you know somebody lost the world championship by 1 point, by half a point? It's not like those people are so exponentially better than you, you'll never win. No. Go back and examine what you did. That's what I'm saying. I have never made a 7-figure income. I have never done it. But as I told my friend, give me 12 months from today, I will make a 7-figure income legally and doing everything according to the law. Well, why do you think that? Because my mentor makes $1,200,000 every year and has done so for the last 8 years. And he's saying, Ed, let me show you how you do this. He's helped me. So that's the way it is. You're going to waver sometimes. Sometimes I say, good night. Seems like the more money I make, the more money they take. My mentor has shown me, you want to build wealth, Ed? You have to have your money making money. Don't just work to make money. I take a 1-month vacation with my wife and 2 kids every year. And when I come back, I see how much money I have made. I don't work for money. I work because I love what I do. But I put my money to work to make money.
What you are talking, Sheikh?
So there's your key, I believe.
What do you want?
All right. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Ed. We've got another question. I just wanted to ask you something, though. Something came to my mind. And this one is probably something which you've not been asked before. Have you ever been mentored by the Les Brown?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. And I did we were on a cruise together. I don't know what year that was, like 2015, 14. And I was on the undercard and Les was the main attraction. And yes, Les has sat down and talked with me. He is a great speaker. But again, Les is a guy that never even went to college. You know what I mean? We say, wow, how does this guy, he really has done a lot of amazing things. He's an amazing speaker and a great man. But yes, he's helped me to see. And you tend to think, well, could I do that? Oh, yes, Ed, of course you can. Biggest thing is getting over the belief that you cannot. Of course you can. You really, really can. My mother, who never went to school, like I said, she got like a 3rd grade education. She was a midwife. So if anybody on this line was having a baby, my mother's here, she said, child, lay down. Let me kick your legs up. She knows how to live. Now somebody says, she's never been to medical school. No, but she was a midwife. And in the South, my father said, Negroes were not allowed to go to a doctor. The only doctor that would see a Negro in Mississippi and Arkansas was a veterinarian, an animal doctor. So they had women who were skilled in how to deliver babies. My mother was one of those women. And it blows my mind. It's like, Ma, how do you do that? Well, it's the same thing. Somebody here doesn't realize what you can do. I have friends who are my business partner is a medical doctor. He's internal medicine. But, he's been trained. It took 8 years to, go to school. But there are many things. So as a speaker, what Les helped me to see, no, I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a doctoral degree like you. I'm not a world champion like you, but I love to speak. And I can make, he always says, I can make it do what it do. So guess what? They hire me to do all kinds of workshops and training. That's where you, if you don't become a world champion, don't ever believe that you can't be the best in the world. That's a misnomer. Some of the best speakers I know have competed, but they've never won the world championship. But those who I know who have won the world championship, they are great guys, great speakers, very good speakers.
All right. One question coming in from Ronald again. He says, how much humor should you include in an international speech?
See, because the international speech is not the humorous speech contest, I would say don't go too heavily on the humor. But I think that humor is important. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say maybe a 3 or 4 would be not bad, because a lot of people have difficulty understanding the use of humor. Some people use humor to get a laugh, and that will make you fail in the world championship. You must use humor alternatively to make a point. See, it's a difference. Comedian uses humor to get laugh. Did you hear the one about so-and-so? Everybody laughs. Now, they mistakenly believe that because I have the audience laughing, that, boy, I'm gaining points. No, it doesn't work like that. You could have the audience falling on the floor in laughter and applauding at the end, and you will not take first, because there are other categories that you are being evaluated for. So don't lean on the humor, but if you use humor, laugh a point into everything that you are making. Use it as a means to illustrate the point. It also helps the audience to relax. So again, I would say no more than 30%, 25 to 30%. The rest of it, impact. You want people to hear what you're saying, to understand. A speech like The Courage to Try, you want somebody to say, boy, when that guy said, it was like he was talking to me. Yeah, I am talking. You want everybody to get that individual response. That's what will get you points. And I think it will help you win the world championship.
All right. I think thank you so much for that. I just wanted to acknowledge to you, Toastmaster Edward, we have someone in the audience who actually watched you live at your world championship, sitting there right in that hall when you won the championship. And that person is with us, and that is distinguished Toastmaster Nomel Hilongos, who was back then representing Bahrain in the Middle East. And he was along with one of our speakers in the finals as well, Toastmaster Muhammad Ali Shukri, who was with you in the finals as well on that day. So DJM Nomel is with us. DJM Nomel, do you have anything to add or say to our guest speaker?
All right, thanks, Rafi. I'm not sure if you can hear me. I think my
Yes,
laptop.
I can.
Good. Hi, Ed. It's nice
Hello.
to see you again. A little heavier, but still looking good as ever. I can still vividly remember the 2006 day when you won World Championships. For the information.
DJM Nomel, you just broke up.
Yeah, he just faded a bit.
He's having some connection issues. All right, I think we'll give him that opportunity, or I might complete that line maybe. He's just too excited to see you here up close in person.
Well, it's always great.
Exactly, and something which I was looking at when I watched that videotape, Ed, is your connection of your message with your gestures. Everything was so in sync. And that one gesture of the bounce back, you did that thing, and the gesture of those of you who watched the speech would probably relate to what I'm saying. In the speech itself, the speech was about bouncing back, and the metaphor used was this particular bag, which when you hit, it goes down and comes back up, and you had a perfect gesture for that. And I was wondering, did you have mentors and coaches giving you trainings on every word and every gesture? Or was that all natural? Because I get to hear speakers say to me that, when you have come to the semifinals, you've used your best speech. And the finals happens to be something that catches you off guard, and you come up with a speech which is not that great as your semifinal speech. So what was that one speech that you gave at the semis? Was that better than your world championship winning speech, Toastmaster Ed?
No, no. In fact, at the semifinal round, I had a speech. I cannot recall the name that I gave that speech, where I had 3 points that I was giving in that speech. And when I got to giving this speech, a person just asked a while ago about humor. Well, there was quite a bit of humor in that speech. But the problem in humor is that people start laughing. And the roar of laughter was so loud, I had to let people kind of calm down and quiet themselves before I proceeded. I had 3 points to that semifinal speech, and at 2 points, I get hit with the red light. I'm like, oh my goodness. Now, what I suggest to everyone is have what I call an emergency exit. In every speech I give, there is an emergency exit strategy, meaning that I could give 1 point to my speech, go into my emergency exit, and you would never know that I had 2 other points. Well, that's what happened in the semifinal round. I didn't intend, I thought it was just moderately funny, but I would say things and people were laughing and they were laughing. And I was like, be quiet, you guys only got 7 minutes. You know what I'm saying? So the reality is when I got to my second point, I finished it, bingo, the red light hits me. Now, immediately my mind said, exit, Ed, exit. And so I did. But I was so sure I had lost that competition that after I finished speaking, they took a break. I went to the bathroom and I was just in the bathroom kicking myself. Ed, oh, you didn't even finish the speech. I came back in the room right as they were announcing the winner, and they said, and the winner is Edward Hearn of Chicago, Illinois. And then I wasn't there. I was looking in the door and they said, did he leave? And one of my church members who went to hear the competition, she said, I think Reverend went to the bathroom. And then I came in the room and they handed me the trophy. And it was, I couldn't help but laugh myself. I said, well, guys, if I thought I was going to win, I would have stuck around and waited. But I really didn't like my semifinal speech, but it wasn't bad. And so I share with everybody, you got to have a means, because if you stop that speech and just end it, they're going to say, no, his speech was too long. 7 minutes. Now you got 30 seconds of grace, but I always tell people that 30 seconds is only for wrapping up quickly. I had a guy who I was helping to train for my club, got to the semifinals, saw the light at 7 minutes, spoke what he thought was about 15 or 20 seconds. He was disqualified for time. He was 2 seconds over the 7:30. He was 7:32. And I told him, I said, Dwayne, why did you see the red light? He said, yeah, but I thought, see, when you're on stage, 30 seconds goes by much more quickly than when you're just casually sitting down. So no, my first speech, The Courage to Try, I love that speech. That's the one I just gave you, of course, in a broader, lengthier form. The second speech, I can't even remember the name of it, but I had to exit that speech. So when it got to the finals, they said, now you qualify for the finals. I didn't know what to, it's like, well, now what am I going to do? I didn't really have a speech drafted until 2 weeks before the competition. And a friend of mine said, Ed, what is it you would want to tell the whole world? What's the one thing on your mind? And I said, I got a lot of things on my mind. And her name is Nancy Calabrese. She said, if you could tell the whole world one thing, what's that one thing you'd want to tell them? And I thought for a minute, and I said, well, Nancy, I tell you this. I have been through so much in the last year and a half. I've been through conflict at my church. I've been through a divorce. I've been through trials and tribulations. But anybody who has counted me out, they had better recount again. Because, baby, I'm bouncing back. She said, Ed, that's your speech. And I said, oh, it is? I had to write it down. What did I just say? She said, see how you said that? That kind of passion. Now, when it comes to the body movements, that story I tell about the punching bag is true. I had a punching bag. And when you punch it, it falls and it comes back. You punch it the other way, it falls. So I said, that's a good metaphor for life. All of us get punched. All of us get knocked down. You'll get fired. You'll lose a loved one. You'll get divorced. But how do you bounce back? Is that the end of your life? Or are you prepared to come back? And when I put that down on paper, what I was doing on that speech in the finals was just sharing people my heart. I thought I had a good chance of winning, but there were some great speakers. And I said, if I don't win, that's okay. I've lost criminal cases that I said, wow, my client paid me over $10,000 and I lost. It's not a good feeling. But when they said the winner is Edward Hearn, I dropped my head and all I could say was, thank you, God, it's over. I was glad to win, but I was glad when it was over. I'm telling you, I've had enough competition. So it was a beautiful experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I really wouldn't.
Thank you, Ed. DJ Nomel is back. DJ Nomel, please, very quickly, in 30 seconds, your feeling of having Ed here up close and personal, back from 2006 up to now. Your comments, please, DJ Nomel.
Of course, I'm very happy and I'm very excited. The last time I saw Ed, the last story I heard about Ed is that when he arrived in Washington, D.C., no one was paying attention to him. He drove alone from the airport to Hilton. But then when he's going back to Chicago, there are so many people trying to drive him back all the way to Chicago. What a trophy can make a difference. But more than that, Ed, what you really did that morning is you really touched the lives and the hearts of so many people. So many people. That speech was so beautiful. It pierces the heart. We just so love you and your speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Right.
You were absolutely right. That ride, I had about 10 people offer me rides, but I thought I was going to take a cab. So thank goodness I won.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Nomel Hilangos, representing District 75 as the public relations officer there. Thank you, Ed. I would like to give control back to you now, Toastmaster Edward Hearn, for your closing remarks. And I know there is a no kill switch to your energy. And I'm going to keep going on and on and on with this, but I'm going to leave you with the closing remarks, sir.
Well, let me say it has been my honor and my privilege to share with you this morning. It's 8:30 in the morning here in Chicago, and I know that it's nighttime there. But I am so grateful for the privilege to be in the presence of greatness. Every time I'm in Toastmasters groups, I believe that there are great people that join Toastmasters who recognize that they have a talent that they want to take to the very top shelf. And I hope that each of you will do just that. That we as Toastmasters are around the world. And now with this COVID-19 pandemic, we can see that the world is not so big of a place as we thought. That all of us have some things in common. Illness doesn't differentiate because of race or country. Challenges, everybody around the world has got them, but also success is felt all around the world if you have the courage to try. If you learn nothing else today, I hope you take that courage with you. And as Zig Ziglar used to say, I'll see you at the top. Thanks so much, and God bless.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Edward Hearn. It's been, I would say, more than a decade to actually connect with you. Personally, for me, it's been an honor, absolute pleasure, and I will keep referring back to your speech of bouncing back in life when life throws its best punch at you, finding that momentum to come back up, and I'm going to live with that for the rest of my life. It's been an honor and pleasure. Thank you so much. All right. Our lovely attendees, those of you who've been joining us continuously for our series with world-class speakers. We've got world champions. We've got speakers that have reached the championship stage and who've been finalists several times. to inspire all of you. And if that did not inspire you, then you need to actually find that inspiration in yourself. As Toastmaster Edward Hearn said, find that greatness in you in order to push you and leverage that greatness to reach where you want to be. And I'm going to leave you all with that note. And just for you all to let you know, we've come to the end of our volume 3. But guess what? We've got a bonus for you. We will be back with a special grand finale where we will be having, or try rather, considering the time zones, to have all our wonderful guest speakers, the world champions and world-class speakers in the same frame, in the same day, at the same time. Now, that's challenging, but we will work around with the challenges, but we hope to give you that so you can enjoy watching all of them in the same frame. And if you had that question which you could not probably get through to our speaker, which have spoken in the past, that's going to be your opportunity. And Edward Hearn will be there too. And I'm not going to let you go, Ed. I'm going to be on your back. I'm going to keep pulling you into events here and there, because now I know that you're up and you're back with your energy. And as I said, there's no kill switch to your energy. So I'm going to help you use that energy for different events. So look out for that messenger where I keep flooding you with all the messages.
Okay, all right.
Thank you so much. On that note, it's been a pleasure. Back to you, our Division K Director, Toastmaster Adrenaline, for your closing remarks.
Okay, thank you, Toastmaster Rafiq. Just want to say thank you, Toastmaster Hearn, for gracing our event. It's an honor and privilege for us, especially for me, seeing you online, and I hope to meet you in person. And based on what you have told us, is that your success is only limited by your imagination. You just have the courage to try, and no physical limitation will stop you achieving your goals or your dreams in life. And you know what, Toastmaster Edward, I'm a physical therapist, and oh yeah, the feeling making you up go upstairs, trying it, and I know the feeling of our patients, but I know that you have done and you have achieved your dream of walking. And thank you for sharing us with that. And of course, as Division K Director, I officially adjourned this meeting. And of course, before we leave this meeting or close this meeting, I would like to request everyone to please open up your cameras and have a picture with our.
Yes. Before we close, Toastmaster Ed, if you allow me, we've got some wonderful messages coming from the attendees. I'll quickly read out to Ed so that it reaches Ed all the blessings that they want to offer to Ed. We've got Toastmaster Sang Sandy telling you, thank you all, great sharing. We've got Toastmaster Furkan saying, Mr. Edward Hearn, nice speech. This is Furkan from Division F, Area 25, probably District 79 this is. And then we've got other messages coming in. Says here, thank you very much, Champion Ed, for your sharing with us. This is coming from Toastmaster Petra Sheradol from Thailand. Someone is asking me your email address as well. Someone says, can we have Ed's email ID, please? Well, I will reserve exclusive rights to that.
Sure, you can share that with all the Toastmasters. No problem.
We've got a lot of messages coming in. I just read a few just to help you reach their blessings to you. All right, on that note, thank you very much, our lovely attendees. This is our time now to show your biggest smiles and your thumbs up, because I'm going to take a screenshot of all of you together. All right, here goes screen number 1 with Ed in the center. Okay, that's screen number 1. Those of you who have not turned on your videos, this is your opportunity. Okay, I'm going to go for screen number 1 again because I just noticed someone turned on their cams. Toastmaster Vivian Mangali. Okay, there you are, because I saw some shaky movements on your camera. Okay, I captured it at the right moment. All right, that's screen number 1. Going to screen number 2. This one is without Ed. It's so unfortunate. Okay, I'm going to screen number 2. Excellent. Capture screen number 2. You've been great audience. Lovely having you all. Pleasure, honor, and all the learning was ours, Toastmaster Edward, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Toastmaster Edward.
All right. Have a great day. God bless you.
Same with you. God bless.
Thank you, Division K. Hi, Toastmaster Edward.
God
Hello.
bless you. God bless you, Ed.
Thank you so much. God bless each of you. Keep pushing. Keep pushing.
Thank you.
All right.
Come
Bye-bye
to
now.
Bangkok again, Ed. Come to
Yes.
Thailand again.
Ah, is this Petra?
Thank you for the inspiration.
Good to
Okay.
see you again, Ed.
God bless you. Thank you. Good to see you all. Great. Okay. God bless Petra, all of them. That's good. Sometimes I think I'm
Bye.
like, bye-bye now.
All right, signing off now. Thank you, everyone. You've been great and lovely. Thank you.